controversy about guns in the Black community.
Hmm.
And one of the big issues to me is that Black people don't seem to understand their rights and their Second Amendment rights when it comes to guns. So, why don't we start by you introducing yourself and telling us which organizations you represent? Because I think you represent several because you own your own training academy and so forth. So, why don't we start there?
Okay, my name is William Hampton. I'm a firearms instructor, was certified by the NRA. I'm also president of the Gullah Warriors Gun Club out of Fairfield County area, and I've been an enthusiast for about 20 years now, and just started really taking it seriously as far as like the training, getting into the recreational sides of shooting within the last like 2 to 3 years. And
And
in regards to just our community and their Second Amendment rights, I know I came up where it was taboo almost. It was like it was only the bad guy that was supposed to have the firearm, and that wasn't for regular citizens to exercise, a right for them to exercise.
and why do you think it's so controversial that blacks would want to own guns to protect themselves and their families?
Well, I think from a historical standpoint in this country, the powers that be would have always wanted it to be taboo because you never want to empower, that which you're subjugating, right? But in more recent times, it seems like it's fine if we're glorifying it in reference to our own violence, whether in music or movies and things like that. But when it comes to our self-determination or protecting ourselves from any threat, it always seemed to have that negative connotation. Like we have, laws that have been passed in history, in certain states, black codes and things like that, where it was literally against the laws for us to obtain any type of firearm. And, we're just getting past that hump here now in, I'll say last year, 2020, to whereas it was more of a grand awakening, if you would.
Now, I understand that gun sales have
Mhm.
really just gone through the roof. And I believe it's the same situation here in Connecticut. But in terms of gun sales to blacks,
Mhm.
how is how is that going? Is it, are more blacks than ever seeking gun ownership?
Definitely. Yeah, the amount of people pursuing their pistol permit or their permit to carry, however it's worded in each individual state, has definitely skyrocketed. Gun sales, since it is a process, it'll take you about 3 to 6 months before it's all said and done. But I don't even think we've seen anything yet because a lot of the new interests, they're just now getting their permits. So we haven't even really seen what's to come as far as like black people actually going to finally purchase. Like I have a few of my students who are also part of my gun club who they finally got their permit and now they can walk into a store and purchase. And no exaggeration, one of my guys, he's actually our membership director. He literally within 2 days of him getting his card, he asked some questions, asked around, and went into the gun store, made his first purchase. He had all this time basically to kind of do his research, what fits him, what's ergonomic to his hand, and he waited. He didn't wait at all. So a lot of states are backlogged based off of how many people are going after it now. So we haven't really seen anything yet, but both from interest to sales, it's definitely jumped almost triple fold prior to versus 2019, 2018.
Now, you are part of a gun club. Can you
Mhm.
explain that to us and exactly what is a gun club? What do you guys do for
Okay.
members?
All right. So I saw a need following class. People felt, safer, secure. But I felt like, if I've seen friends who have gone to get their pistol permit years ago, and because there's no
We lost your
sorry,
video. There you go.
sorry about that,
That's
because
okay.
there's no collective group where you can go and actually participate with each other, then I felt like some of them may have been a little intimidated to go to the range, even though they may have known what they were doing. There would have been some level of hesitation. So I started, attaching to their email with their certificate. Hey, I also have this gun club that I'm starting. And as of right now, we have about 15 active members. Just within the last 2 weeks, started delegating vice president, who's a dynamite sister, treasurer, sergeant at arms, membership director, someone that just handled PR. So we move like, an official club, but the main basis is to half of it is charity. So we've done coat drives, clothing drives, food drives, things like that. The rest of it is basically to come together as a group and learn and teach, because I'm no expert. Excuse me, I'm pretty proficient, but I know what I know what I don't know. So we, bring this circle together to really learn and exercise this right as a community.
Now, you mentioned women. Are
Mhm.
women a big part of this gun ownership surge? Are you finding that?
They are amongst the biggest part of this surge, and it doesn't seem like it's slowing down at all. Like within 2021, it seems like the numbers are still continuing to grow, and especially among Black women in particular. And I think it's just, part of this awakening to where, we're taking our safety into our own hands, and again, it's any threat, not just the police. It could be, you could be in a rough neighborhood and a single mom. And I get a lot of that within my group, basically. And, they want to make sure that they have something to protect their children in their home. They don't want to totally rely on, police response time, you know.
Now, when people come to your classes, what do
Mhm.
you teach them? What are they learning?
So safety is first and foremost. We start with just the basics and the safety rules, which is keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot, keep the gun unloaded until you're ready to use it, and don't ever let the muzzle point at anything you don't plan on destroying. So even though we may start class with the rubber training tools and the rubber guns, no projectiles, can be fired out of them. We treat those like real firearms. And if there's any fooling around or not taking that safety side of it serious, that's the quickest way to get, your money handed back to you and asked to leave my class. Because, the fun part will come when, we're at the range and we're getting advanced and doing things like that. But there's no room to fool around, because as a community, even from the recreational side, we're behind the eight ball. I go shoot with plenty of friends, white, whoever, and it seems like a lot of my white counterparts who are into guns have always been. It was a family thing, tradition passed down, and they can shoot like accurately. They've shot competitively and things like that. So, again, just from a recreational standpoint, we're behind the eight ball. But we start there, and then we get into the functionality of the firearm, which calibers to choose, because there's like a fourth unsung rule: know your target and what's beyond it. And that goes into, where you live, neighbors and things like that. And then we finish at the range. So the longest part of it is the classroom part, is the lecture part. And we'll go through dry fire practice, which means actually pulling the trigger with dummy rounds inside. Nothing that fires. It's a metal fake bullet that has a rubber tip, basically, so it doesn't wear the firing pin. But we go through the entire process that we're going to do at the range. They have a written test. Anything over 10 wrong, you basically fail. But we go over the questions as a group. So I want to make sure everybody's proficient, has it, and feels safe before we head down to the range. And when we get to the shooting range, that's when, based off of sign up sheet, whoever gets there first, we go in, and it's partly about accuracy, but that's not a way to fail. Doing something unsafe, even or especially at the range, is the easiest way to, if not fail, be asked, okay, maybe we have to come back, and I'll come back another two and three times before just passing anyone, because anyone who leaves my classroom, they have, my name attached to them. So should they go out on their own and do something unsafe, then that's definitely going to fall back on me.
One of the controversies, if you will, is that putting guns in Black neighborhoods, most people see it as putting guns into the hands of thugs. Well,
Hmm.
you and I both know that that's not true. If
Hmm.
you are a criminal, you're going to get your gun from
Legally. Yeah.
illegally. You're not going to get it legally. The problem I have with that is, when this country was first founded, guns were part of the family.
Yeah.
The husband kept that gun up on the mantelpiece and it was there to protect his family.
Hmm.
And whites learned about their Second Amendment rights very early in the
Yeah.
founding of this country. Why do you, again, the NRA, which is the National Rifle Association, it is supposed to teach and equitably, I should say, everyone about the use of guns, but they've fallen short in the Black
Hmm.
community. And we have a young man from Philadelphia, Maj Tory, who
Yes.
who started Black Guns Matter. And he
Hmm.
sees this in a whole different light. And I know you're a big fan of his. Why don't you tell
Hmm.
me why you're a big fan of his and why you are a big fan of getting this information out to the Black community?
Well, we shared the same message. Before I ever heard of him, it only but made sense, and it's something I'd been talking about since, like, honestly, the late '90s. Whether with friends or through my music that I do as well, just it's a right we should be exercising. No one should be feel like a captive in their own community, and especially if it's a community who has the criminal element to deal with, but then over aggressive police element. Now you really have two things, going against you. I feel like, historically speaking, again, it's almost been like it's been taught to us to be taboo,
Right.
very passive, turn the other cheek. And where and when guns have actually helped liberated us, whether on continent of Africa or Haiti or here, whether it's the Gullah Wars, Deacons for Defense, the sisters that would, protect the voting booths when Black men got the right to vote first. Guns are also embedded in just as embedded in our, fight for freedom as it is, any white person in this country in regards to England or their, separating themselves from, the king.
One of the things I think about is this open carry law that
Hmm.
is which is legal in Connecticut. But when you're Black, it carries a different meaning when someone sees you with a gun. I mean, let's
This
say
is
you're in a store and you make a wrong move and your gun is exposed. That
yes.
just sends panic in police. What do you
Mhm.
do in a situation like that when you are within your legal rights? What do you do?
So I teach in class to make sure, like, to purchase for concealed carry, meaning something that's easily concealable. If you're buying for carry, some people just want guns to keep in the home, and that's fine too. But if you're carrying outside of the home, make sure you're conscious of, even down to your wardrobe, while you're traveling and out about, because you don't want that type of attention, whether from, a regular person in the grocery store and you're reaching up to grab a can of something, or if you're in a situation to whereas, there is a bad guy present assessing the scene, anyone, holding a firearm is a potential threat to that person and may or may not be a deterrent. You may become that person's first target. So I'm of the belief, if you are the most dangerous person in the room, you should be the only one to know it, and any bad guy should be the last person to know it, and this doesn't mean play hero or anything like that. If it's just material, then I'll gladly just hand it over, because that can be replaced. And that in itself is still even cheaper than the lawyer fees that may come from his family claiming, some type of lawsuit, because we are a castle doctrine state. We don't live in a stand your ground state. So that being the case, either retreating first, or if it's monetary and there is no lethal threat to my life, here, have at it, because again, my goal is to make it, home to my kids. But to conceal carry is all about just being conscious. What's your routine during the day? Do you have to go inside of federal property? Wintertime is a little easier. Summertime, it gets a little tricky. So it's a case by case
Get less
basis.
clothes.
Yes, yeah. So for some people, it's a little easier just based off size.
Well, you said something I thought was very interesting, and I didn't know. I guess there are two different permits: one to keep a gun in your home, and one for open carry. One permit
Oh
does not
no,
cover it
no, I
all.
mean, the conversation in class, like for those, I have people who come to me and they have no interest in carrying outside of the home. So it's
Mhm.
all the same permit, but the conversation kind of stops there with them just in regards to open carry. But with those, I can say it's probably 60-40, 60% of people who are looking to eventually carry outside of the home. And with those people, I do, instruct them on just being super conscious. And you want to always assess yourself, even in the mirror, before leaving. There are different setups to whereas it's easier to conceal now than just the either leather or nylon holsters of, let's say, like 20 years ago. They have things
Mhm.
to whereas even in the summertime, it almost looks like a girdle, but it straps to the body pretty snug, and you won't have to worry about a print. But unfortunately, yeah, we live in a constitutional open carry state, but because no one does it, it's taboo. So you may end up with a warning, you may end up with a breach of peace.
What would you say is the number one concern of the Black people who come to you and take your classes, etc.? What is their number one concern?
Protection. Very few of them. I would find myself speaking more about the shooting sports side um, in class. Their main thing, based off of what they've observed from, depending on age, for some of the younger ones, it's from Sandra Bland up until now. But I'm 41, so with me, it's more or less, going all the way back.
Right, sure.
Before Rodney King, even, up until now. So, I say it's not that anything is different. It's just we have cell phones, to really capture it.
Right.
But it's in response to, the racial tensions in this country.
Well, Will, I do appreciate you taking the time to
No
be on the
problem,
show.
brother.
Is there anything else that you want to add that I did not cover that you think it's important for people to know?
No, no, that's about it. Just, for those who are opposed in the middle, just get yourself educated, because unfortunately as a people, we've aligned ourselves with the Democratic Party, and smart to get the former individual out, but a lot of them don't seem to get it when it comes to our gun rights. So just keeping in mind to hold a lot more accountability for these people who we voted into office, to be a little slow and a little bit more open-minded when it comes to certain gun rights, not banning things based off of lethality, but features. The scarier looking guns, like AR doesn't stand for assault rifle; it stands for Armalite rifles. The company that decided, and a weapon of war is something that's fully automatic. In no state is a fully automatic weapon legal. So we don't have military weapons on the streets. So these are just a few of the misnomers that we'll hear spewed by, unfortunately, a lot of people that we've voted into office.
One more question. Are you okay and comfortable with Connecticut's gun laws? Or do you think there needs to be improvement, or you're okay with how they are right now?
Yeah, there definitely needs to be improvement. We are in one of the most restrictive states in the entire United States, and none of it translates to safer kids in school, because a criminal with ill intent, he can care less about your gun-free zone. That's a safe haven for him, actually. Not to say teachers should be trained, but I'm just saying, just banning from legal gun owners, people who have committed no felonies. This is what we have to do to even get to this point, to have this conversation. No felonies, no crimes, anything like that. Restricting things like that empower the criminal element. We've seen it in prohibition of alcohol. You create a bigger black market in the midst of restricting legal citizens
Right.
to acquire.
Mhm.
So that, I don't know why we're still beating our heads against that same wall, but unfortunately, yes, they definitely need to improve. And I'd actually go so far as to say anyone making any type of creating legislature in regards to gun laws should have their permit, or they should be quiet.